Okay, hello. We are going to paint this scene. This is Mattituck Harbor on the North Fork of Long Island. And we're starting in with the gradient in the sky. Okay, this is a fall scene. You'll notice that I'm using cerulean blue and ultramarine blue, and the yellow bar right along the horizon line is a yellow ochre and a little bit of yellow, cadmium yellow. Now I'm just painting in some of the little waves in the foreground, trying to vary the sizes so they look like they're going back in perspective. Now here I'm adding just a little spray of water because I want to make my trees wet into wet, at least the first wash wet into wet. I want to create an underpainting or an underlinement for the preceding wash, and here we go. It's a bunch of different colors. I would say that most of it is burnt umber and ultramarine blue to get that dark blue that I just made right there. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create like a shadow value within the trees. The picture was so warm that you could actually see like the shadows being very cool and then the sun's reflections being very warm. So you had that nice juxtaposition in there. And as we can see in the inset photo, what I'm talking about. Sometimes it's hard to see it, but if you look close, you can tell that there is a bit more of a there's a bit more of a warmth to the trees, and you can even tell by the boats where they have almost like a yellow tinge to them. Okay, and that's just an indication that it's a morning light, very low. You can tell by the tree again, the tree shades and the shapes in the trees, that the light is coming from picture right to picture left. Now there's a little point there. I'm just trying to get that nice and bright for the contrast against that dark mass of trees in the distance there. Yeah, I'm painting. Now the browns that I'm using here are burnt sienna with a little bit of cadmium red and cadmium yellow to really punch up the color. What I want to try to do is I want to try to get as much color in the first washes as possible. I want to try to keep my painting on the fresh side, so I don't want to go over too many layers. I don't want to do more than 2 layers or 2 washes, I should say, and then I have to. Now I'm just adding some interest to the trees, and by just kind of mangling the brush, I use those silver black velvet brushes, and they're half synthetic and half squirrel, I believe, and they can really take a beating actually. So now here I'm just trying to mass in, as you can see, that same mixture of burnt umber and ultramarine blue to get that gray. I don't use black, so that's actually the cool kind of neutral tone I use. I find it's a great mixture because if I have to make my darks or my blacks cooler, I can just use some more ultramarine blue. If I need to make them warmer, I just use some burnt umber. Here I'm massing in the big shapes, blotting out a little bit of the light because there's gonna, the boats are gonna give a little reflection. So I wanted to kind of make that little mark in there. Actually, those 2 little marks where the boats will be. Even though I go over it here, you'll kind of see them. They'll sort of go through too as we go. This is pretty short video. It's only 11 minutes and 23 seconds. Yes, I'm sped up a little bit more. But here I'm going over just a few of the the horizontal lines. Here I'm just scraping out. That's sort of like an extension of the smaller waves in the reflection area. Okay, now you can do that anywhere. You can do that in the background. Just make sure your scrapes are smaller, or you can go back later on with either some opaque white or a razor blade, a single edge razor blade, and scratch out some of those highlights, or at least the lights where the waves are. Okay, you always want to try to find contrast wherever it might be. Yeah, some more accents around the boats. I think I even put a building like a crab shack or something back there that didn't exist. I just felt it needed something, a structure. So right there, I just saw a shape, and just on the fly, I decided, okay, well, we'll make that a little building there. Also, as you can tell, and you might not be able to tell, depends on your screen, but I'm adding a lot of blue into the shadows. By adding a lot more blue to the shadows, is what's going to happen is you're going to have a feeling of the morning being warmer than it is. Okay, so what you always want to do in a light situation, especially a sunset or a sunrise situation, what you want to do is you want to have the light. In this case, the light's very yellow from the early morning sunlight. You want to have the shadows being like the polar opposite, or the complementary color, and that complementary color would be a blue, and a cool blue with that. So you'll see that I go back and I add a little bit more of an opaque blue with a little bit of cerulean. You could do right here. You see right there, that's actually a little cool tone in there, and you can see that that it's kind of sitting right on top. Now that's gonna, when that dries, it's gonna soak in, which is kind of cool, and you'll have this really nice feeling of it almost looks like it's opaque, but it's not. It'll look a part of the wash. I know some trains of thought don't really like opaque paint. I don't mind anything that gets makes the picture better. I'm all for it. So if I'm using Pro White, which is what I use here, I'm going to use it right now. And it's tintable, so you can actually add a little color. I add a little, it was probably a touch of cadmium yellow to a lot of the white. All right. It might be hard to tell here. Usually the video, I have to use so much light to illuminate my board and stuff. So it may be a little washed out, but trust me, those whites have a lot of yellow in it. Now here too, I wanted to get that little point where that dry weed grass or eelgrass, whatever that stuff is, I wanted that to really pop out a little bit. And I do go back in there and I think I do a little dry brushing. Now that you can see there's some, little stanchions, some poles there on the docks. It could represent, low tide when they're at that state. And we're getting close to the end. Throwing in, of course, you need some obligatory seagulls flying around. A shoreline painting would not be complete without a few of them. Okay, they're kind of waking up and moving around, and just adding some interest to the background. Those background trees. Now notice I kept that cooler than the trees on the right. That was for a purpose. You wanted to set back into the picture. So by having those little bit of blues coming back there with the tree impressions, that's all you need. You don't need much more than a few shapes to indicate that. Now here I'm just putting some interest in the boats, and back to the landmass, where I actually take that brush at some point. I think I just drag it across if I haven't done it already. And those little bits of white, those little horizontal embellishments of light really help out a lot. Now here I go again with the blue shadows. Now look how warm those lights look now, just with that little addition of blue, and it really sparks it up. You can get that on the first wash. Just be a little bit more deliberate with your blues, and you can get that in the beginning. If not, use a little bit of Pro White, and I think I use cerulean blue to get it nice and intense. And here again, that little light right there coming through on the horizon line. And now I'm going back over the boats once again. The Pro White has a tendency to sink in to the into the paint, which is okay because there was still a little yellow in those boats. And here's the unveiling. This is pretty much the whole painting. I hope you enjoyed it. There it is. And I'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching. And please like and subscribe. Bye now.